Thank you, Judy, for the wonderful, flattering introduction. I'm absolutely thrilled to be here today. It's my first meeting at the Rotary Club, and I am really delighted to be able to meet you and talk to you today and share with you a little bit of my work. I would like first to thank Judy for inviting me, Randy Coe for also inviting me here and giving me this opportunity, and the COSER Charities for their support of the University of Louisville research mission. Who am I? So Judy told you a little bit. I'm clearly, from my accent, you can tell I'm not a native Louisvillian. It took me a while actually to learn how to pronounce Louisville. The first time I said Louisville, and then I realized the S is silent. And I think now I'm doing fairly well, but it was not easy to learn. I am an immigrant who came from Italy 36 years ago. I landed in this country on September 2nd, 1978. And I knew it even before I came that this would be my adoptive country. And I had planned this very, very thoroughly for a long time. I was a research fellow at the National Institute of Health. I was making $9,000 a year, and I thought I was so fortunate to have this fellowship. With that money, I bought me a car that cost me about $700. It was a Datsun, Toyota Datsun, 270,000 miles. It sounded like a lawnmower. When I arrived to my friend's house, they could hear me from like 3 blocks away because they could hear boo, 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 this thing coming. So that was my first car, and I rented this efficiency that you can see there circled in yellow. I don't know if I can point with this, but anyway, that was a one-room efficiency near the campus, which was my bedroom, my dining room, my living room, my kitchen, my study. I had one room. And I did not know anybody. I had no friends, no relatives, no acquaintances, no support. I did not speak much English. I would love to listen to myself at that time. I'm sure I would not understand what I was saying because I did not know. I had no money. And here I am today. It has been a remarkable voyage, and I am very grateful to America because it has been America that has given me the opportunity to do what I have done. I can tell you what I have done in this country would have been unthinkable. What I've done in this country would have been unthinkable in any other country in the world. And it really frustrates me when I hear Americans that they don't appreciate that. It's funny, unless you are an immigrant from another country, you don't understand how incredibly lucky you are to live in this country. You really have to come from another place. So this is the efficiency where we went back with my family 2 years ago, and that was the entrance. I wanted to take a picture because it reminded me when I was a fellow, an obscure fellow at the NIH, starting literally from scratch. That's my story, but you know, I'm not the only one. These are my 2 kids, and I tell them, when I tell them about my stories, that look, I'm just one of millions of people. I mean, there are millions of people that have come to this country from all over the world, and they've come to this country because this is where dreams come true. This is where you can be the best you can be. This is where you can fulfill your full potential as a human being. So I really wanted to start out by saying how grateful I am to this country for having welcomed me as an immigrant, as an obscure, unknown fellow, and giving me the opportunity to fulfill what I think is my potential and to do the best I could with my life. So that's the first thing I am an immigrant. Second thing, I am a scientist who believes in God. Now this may seem kind of contradictory, and I never quite understand why many people think that believing in God is somehow difficult for a scientist. I just don't get it. I have no idea why people think there is any contrast between religion and science. To me, it's the same thing. When I study biology, I'm studying theology. I'm just admiring the incredible work of our Creator. And many, if you go back, many scientists have said that Galileo Galilei and Isaac Newton used to be just mesmerized by the perfection of the creation and said this shows the incredible work of the architect. But the best quote is by Louis Pasteur, who wrote that the more I study nature, the more I stand amazed at the work of the creator. And that's exactly the way I feel. When I go to the lab and I look at a living cell, I said, this is amazing. This is incredible. If I were to describe to you what it takes for one single cell to work, to be alive and function, the walls of this room would not be enough to represent all the chemical reactions that must occur in a precise order in order for one single cell to work. One single cell is infinitely more complex than the most complex supercomputer, moon rocket, or whatever machine man has ever devised. One single cell. So, I could understand why in the past, when people were ignorant about the incredible complexity and intelligence of life, they could think, well, this came about by chance, right? It was just a random collision of molecules that bumped together and bingo, here you have a living cell. But now that we know better, and every year we know it even more, it is inexcusable for me to think that somebody may believe that this happened by chance, by random phenomenon, by accident. It is, if you believe that, you believe in fairy tales. I mean, it's like saying that the Sistine Chapel was the product of billions of years of random movements of water and dust and particles that somehow created the Sistine Chapel ceiling. I mean, it is ridiculous. So I will stop here. And so I just want to say that to me, whenever I study living organisms, I'm studying the incredible creation of an infinite intelligence that has produced this miracle that we call life. All right, so I came to Louisville 20 years ago, as Judy said, and over the years I built a research program which is quite large. It's called the Institute of Molecular Cardiology. It's actually probably the largest research program in cardiovascular medicine in the region, in the state of Kentucky. This is our latest family picture from last October. By the way, I want to recognize some members of this group that are here. Dr. Aruni Bhatnagar, who has been with me for many, many years and has been an outstanding colleague and an outstanding scientist. Dr. Irugo, whom you see here in the front, and Dr. Matt Keith, who is hidden somewhere in this, I don't know where you were hiding, Matt, but you were hiding somewhere there. So this is the list of members. We provide 107 jobs to the Louisville community. Okay, so we help keep the unemployment rate down in Louisville, right? And we have a cadre of 20 faculty, you can see here on the left, that are really the best of the best. I recruited them over the years. I've been very fortunate to have them in Louisville, and they're all energetic team players, outstanding scientists working together to advance cardiovascular disease. We are very productive. This shows the number of publications in top-tier medical journals. We publish 40 to 50 papers a year in the very best journals in the world. Our interest is to try to deal with ischemic heart disease. That's the disease caused by a blockage in a coronary artery that causes a lack of oxygen to the heart, and that eventually results in a heart attack and heart failure. It's very common. Every minute there is one American that dies of a heart attack, right? So during our lunch, about 60 Americans have died of a heart attack. It accounts for 200,000 to 300,000 deaths a year. It's the single most important cause of death in the United States. So we wanted to see if we can help people be protected against a heart attack and also to regenerate heart using adult stem cells. I do not study embryonic stem cells. I think they're immoral. I use only adult stem cells. We also do work on environmental cardiology, and Dr. Bhatnagar has an outstanding program of excellence in diabetes and obesity that he has been spearheading. Now, this shows you, I was telling you about the ischemic heart disease. This is a patient who had a massive heart attack and unfortunately died. And the reason the patient died was that if you look at this brownish, yellowish area, this is dead tissue, right? So this is a section of the heart. It's like a bread loaf in the heart. The red area is alive. The yellowish green, yellowish brownish, yeah, is dead. And you can see that about half of the heart was dead in this patient. There is no way a human being can survive with this size of heart attack. And those patients who do survive, they have a miserable short life with heart failure that gets worse and worse. So we are trying to find a way to cope with this problem. There are a lot of medicines that we can give to these patients, even devices, even artificial hearts, but they really are all palliative. They don't solve the fundamental problem, which is the loss of muscle. Now, with stem cells, we have the ability to regenerate that lost muscle. We have, for the first time, the potential to cure heart disease and heart failure by replacing dead tissue with new viable tissue. And you can imagine how exciting this is. This is going to revolutionize the management of heart failure in the whole field of cardiovascular medicine. By the way, not only cardiovascular, any field of medicine, because there are stem cells not only in the heart, but in every organ of our body. So this is probably the biggest revolution in medicine in our lifetime, and it's just starting now. So as I said, we try to prevent heart disease and to repair it. That's a picture of the adult stem cells that we are finding in the heart. You see these little guys, they're all clustered together with a green surface. These are small stem cells. They stay there until they're needed. And they are needed whenever some of the heart cells die. We change our hearts during our lifetime about 10 times. That meaning all of our heart cells are replaced on average 10 times during our lifetime. And they are replaced by these guys, by these stem cells that they grow up and they become a heart cell when that's needed. So that keeps our heart in place. We are able to study these cells in many animal models of heart failure. This is one example of a mouse heart where we injected them stem cells. You can see them as green cells. The dense area is where there was a heart attack, and you see these cells are very smart. They go where the damage is, and they know where they're needed, and they go there to repair it, and that's the same heart stain with another marker. That's another experiment we did. This one was in a rat model of heart failure, where you can see on the left a very dilated heart. We gave a heart attack to these animals by tying a coronary artery. You can see a very large scar, very thin, a dilated heart. So this is a very, very poorly functioning heart. On the right side, you see the heart is much smaller, the wall is thicker, and there is viable tissue because of the injection of stem cells. So to make a long story short, we did about 10 years of work in animal models of heart failure, mice, rats, pigs, dogs, and eventually we applied to the Food and Drug Administration to do the first in-human study of these cells in patients with heart failure. The name of the study is Scipio, after my favorite Roman general. Which, if you like, during the question session, I can tell a little bit about the Second Punic War and the Battle of Zama in 202 BC, when Scipio defeated Hannibal. But anyway, this was a phase 1 open-label randomized trial where we studied 20 patients and 20 controls, 20 patients treated, 20 controls. It was a long, long process, really an exercise in perseverance. We contacted the FDA in 2004, and we received approval only in 2008. So it took us 4 years, and then about 3 years to complete the study. This is the protocol. Just to go very quickly, during bypass surgery, we take a little piece of heart, which you can see here in this picture. We isolate stem cells, we grow them in a dish, and then we put them back into the same patient 4 months later by intracoronary infusion, and then we follow up the patient for 2 years. That's what these stem cells look like. So all of us have this kind of stem cells in our heart, and we can, as I said, we can isolate them, grow them, expand them, and then put them back to repair a damaged heart. This shows how we deliver the stem cells with a coronary angiography by putting a catheter into this is a bypass actually to the coronary artery. We occlude see if I can go forward. Oops, it looks like it's not advancing. Not sure how I can advance this. somebody has a... Yeah, next slide, yeah. Maybe if you can advance to the next slide. It should show that we have a balloon that we inflate to stop the blood flow, and then we infuse stem cells while there is no blood flow for 3 minutes in this patient. Next one, please. So this was our first patient, Mr. Mike Jones. We injected him on July 17, 2009. This was in the bone marrow transplant unit at the Brown Cancer Center, and that's the box with the stem cells that I was holding and taking to Jewish Hospital into the cath lab. This was a few hours later. The stem cells are here in the syringe. We're infusing them into the patient. Mr. Jones is here on the table. And that's Mr. Jones himself a week later when we had a press conference at Jewish Hospital to announce the first treatment, the first patient. Mr. Jones is the first patient since the Big Bang that received the cardiac stem cells in his heart. So he's very excited to be that, and actually we could not have picked a better patient. He's a wonderful, wonderful human being, a blue-collar worker who has an incredible level of education. He knows history, philosophy, social sciences, and even went to study CPO, because I told him about the name of the trial. So he is now an expert on CPO. He gave me a book that one day I will read when I'm retired, probably. But he's a really wonderful. We became personal friends. I go to his house twice a year. He's very happy because he was in bad shape, and now he's like able to drive his tractor, work on his farm, playing with his grandchildren. I mean, he's like a born-again person. He's very, very happy about this. And that's him 2 years later in 2011 with his wife. And this is our second patient, Mr. Deering, Dr. Slaughter, who collaborated with us in this trial. They were all together for this study. I'm not sure if this move is going to work. Probably it's not looping, looks like. Anyway, this is a 3D echo that gives an example of what these stem cells do. This is before stem cells, who was our second patient. You can see the heart is not moving very well. It's very sluggish. Even if you're not an echocardiographer, you can appreciate there is not much of a motion there. And look at 1 year later, after stem cells, how much better this heart is moving. It is really a striking. This heart actually looks normal. If you don't know the history of this patient, you say this patient is normal. And this patient had heart failure with a heart attack and received stem cells. So we are very, very excited about these cells. Next. So quickly, I know this is not a scientific meeting, but I want to give an idea. We measure the strength of the heart by measuring ejection fraction. So in control patients who receive no treatment, there is no change over 2 years. But notice in the treated patients, there is a major improvement after 2 years that lasts, actually gets better over time. This is more than you get with any other medicine that you can give to patients with heart failure or any other stem cell. So we're really very excited by the results of this study. We also measure the size of the scar, and to make a long story short, that 2 years after you give these cells, the size of the scar is almost half of what it was. So think about this. One single injection of stem cells can regenerate half of a scar in the heart. It is astonishing. If I said this 20 years ago, they would have thought I was crazy, right? They would send me to a psychiatrist. But this is exactly what we are seeing now. So what does this mean for Louisville? This is the most important research advance in cardiovascular medicine that has been made at U of L. This was the first immense study of a novel therapy that has the potential to revolutionize heart failure. If we can confirm these results in a larger study which we are planning to do, this will literally revolutionize the way we treat heart failure. There are 6 million Americans with heart failure. So this is a very common condition. It's getting more and more common as people get older. And so this is going to be a major, major advance in cardiology. And it brings a lot of visibility to Louisville. When we published our results in the Lancet, I was being chased and hounded and really pursued by journalists. It was amazing. I mean, I couldn't sleep at night. I had people emailing me, calling me, faxing me. It was incredible. We were on NBC News, ABC News, CNBC News, CBS News, WebMD, CNN, BBC, LA Times, Time Magazine, Weekly Standard, The Economist, The Spiegel, ANSA, which is the Italian news emergency, so that my friends from Italy would call me and said, was that you that you did this thing in stem cell in Louisville? I said, yeah, it was me. Oh, I heard it on the radio. I was going to play soccer, and I heard there was somebody in America who gave the stem cells by the name of Bolli. I thought, is that you? Yeah, that was me. I had an interview from Melbourne Radio in Australia. That's amazing. I mean, it was an incredible. Just to tell you how much visibility this has brought to the Louisville community. We have a lot of studies ongoing with stem cells at Jewish Hospital that we are performing. We are members of a network of 7 institutions funded by the National Institutes of Health to do stem cell studies in patients. And we are very proud of being one of those 7. The other members are Texas Art, Stanford, University of Minneapolis, so we are really in good company, and we are going to be continuing to do stem cell studies for the next several years within this network. So we are the most successful, the most NIH funded, the most productive, the most nationally and internationally known research program ever in Louisville in the history of this university. We are not resting on our laurels. We want to continue to develop our research, so our plan for the future is to capitalize on our position as being at the cutting edge of adult stem cell research, and to develop a cardiovascular adult stem cell center which will do research at the preclinical level, which means in experimental animals in the bench, do first-in-human studies such as CPU, where you try a new therapy for the first time, and then go on with larger studies. We call them phase 2 or phase 3 studies that are necessary to confirm the efficacy of a therapy. Those involve typically hundreds of thousands of patients. So we want to continue to develop this field of stem cells, and hopefully we will have the support and the wherewithal to be able to continue to build this program. We were very happy last year to receive a $2 million donation from the Jewish Heritage Fund for Excellence that gave us this money to build what we call the GMP facility. That's a good manufacturing practice facility that enables us now to produce stem cells for clinical trials to put in patients. So we have a number of new stem cells that we want to try. Now we are able, with this facility that will be ready by the end of the year, we'll be able to manufacture the cells here in Louisville and then do our own study here in Louisville. That's going to be a huge, huge boon for us. And if we continue to receive additional support and philanthropy, this will enable us to test new types of cells, to do more trials, and to do the follow-up to CPO, the CPO2, where we need to confirm the efficacy of the cardiac stem cells. Our goal is to be at the cutting edge of this field. It's the single hottest field in research in cardiovascular medicine. Actually, I think in every field of medicine nowadays. And so we want to continue to lead the field and to keep the Louisville at the forefront of this area of research. Thank you very much.
If there are any questions, you can use the microphones, and I'm sure there are lots of thoughts about what he has said. And if you, Judy?
I have a question. How, let's say you have someone in your family that they're really sick, that maybe your work, how would someone become a part of your trial or become accepted in the program so they could be treated with this? What's the requirements?
So we have several trials going on with stem cells, as I showed, and each of them has specific criteria for enrollment and eligibility. So I suggest, if you think someone is interested in being part of these trials, to either contact me or maybe Matt Stitzinger, who is here at the table, and let us know. And we have research coordinators that will, come and look at the patient and see if they qualify for the studies. Yes.
Thank you, Doctor, for coming today and sharing your great successes with us. It's fascinating. I'm also fascinated by whether the idea that you had about God and science occurred to you suddenly or over a period of time. Was there a particular moment that you came to this, or was it gradual?
It was not sudden. I think it has evolved over the years. when I first started studying medicine, I was not so familiar with the biology of the cell. And although I've always been a man of faith, I was not really so struck by the incredible complexity of life. The more I started studying biology and understanding how animals and cells work, the more I realized what an incredible miracle life is. And to me, it's so obvious, it's just as obvious as looking at the sun and moon in the sky. And it really amazes me that there are people that believe that all of this came about by chance. I mean, as I said, you may as well believe in fairy tales if you think that could happen. The likelihood is essentially zero that life formed by chance. So, and every year we understand even more. So we learn more how complex it is. For example, you look at the field of genetics, right? 50 years ago, it was very simple. There was the DNA, and there was the RNA, and then there was the protein. Well, 50 years later, it is 100 times more complex, and every 5 years it becomes more complex. I mean, you have continuous discoveries that show how all these molecules must interact precisely with one another, and there are thousands and thousands of them that have to work in an exactly predetermined and organized manner in order for a single cell to function. And the idea that all of this came about by chance is just ludicrous.
Dr. Boley, thank you very much for your presentation. It was really fascinating. I'm curious, it seems like all of us know someone who's had a stent or bypass surgery, and my question is, practically speaking, how is your research and your work going to change how those heart diseases are taken care of?
Yeah, that's a great question. So clearly stenting and bypass surgery are very important to restore blood to the heart. We have many different medicines that are very effective in prolonging life. Aspirin, statins like Lipitor and Crestor, and beta blockers and ACE inhibitors and so on. And all of them help patients live longer and live better life. But none of them really solves the problem, which is that you have lost, not you specifically, I'm talking about a patient, has lost a chunk of muscle in the heart, and that has been replaced by a scar. The scar does not contract, and so no matter what medicines you take, that scar is there, and your heart is not pumping well, and eventually the patient will die because of the lack of enough cardiac muscle. So the stem cells give us for the first time an opportunity to correct the problem, to eliminate the cause of heart failure, and that's what makes it so exciting. So we see stem cells as an adjunctive to things like bypass surgery or coronary angioplasty or stenting or things like that, things we use to eliminate the damage caused by a heart attack.
Thank you, Doctor. This is really fascinating. What application does your research have to other parts of the body, liver regeneration, nerve regeneration, spinal cord regeneration?
Yeah, that's a great question. Thank you. As I alluded to earlier, there are stem cells in virtually every organ of our body, including our brain. So when I went to medical school, I was taught that the brain can never regenerate, right? That we have 100 billion neurons when we are born, and we slowly lose them. When we get old, it gets really tough because we keep losing neurons every day, and that's it. But now we know that the brain can regenerate neurons just like the other organs. So there are now many studies of stem cells to regenerate, for example, the kidney, the liver, the spinal cord. There is a lot of research here in Louisville. There is an excellent program in spinal cord regeneration, the skin, the lung. So virtually in every organ now we have a lot of people working on regenerating those organs with stem cells. It is a global revolution. It's not just cardiovascular medicine. It's the whole field of medicine.